What if I told you that those sudden, completely out-of-nowhere urges you get when you're just innocently scrolling your phone or maybe just staring at the ceiling in bed are actually your brain doing its job a little too well? You know the exact moments I'm talking about. You're not thinking about anything remotely intimate, and then boom, out of nowhere it hits you. And you just sit there thinking, where in the world did that come from? Well, in this explainer, we're going to look really closely at the hidden biology behind these sudden spikes in desire, and I'll show you how understanding them can completely change your relationship with your own mind.
It's incredibly frustrating, isn't it? Because these urges rarely seem to happen when it's actually convenient. Instead, they hit you at literally the worst possible times. You could be right in the middle of a stressful work sprint, trying to cram for a massive exam, or even deep in a really serious, heavy conversation with someone. And your first reaction? It's probably self-blame or just extreme annoyance. You think, why can't I just focus? Why is my body suddenly demanding attention when I clearly have a million other things to do?
Okay, let's dive into this, because the speed at which your brain operates is actually going to shock you. Sexual arousal can begin in your brain in less than 2 seconds. That is literally faster than you can blink. What that means is your brain is lighting up and initiating a full-blown physical response before your conscious mind is even aware of what you just saw, heard, or felt. Your biology is reacting way before you are.
To understand why this happens so fast, we have to look at a tiny, highly active part of your brain called the hypothalamus. Think of this little guy as your brain's automatic, incredibly sensitive radar system. It is constantly scanning your environment 24/7 for any subtle cues that might signal pleasure, or safety, or attraction. Sometimes the cue is super obvious, right? Like a specific scent or a visual. But often, it's incredibly subtle. It could be just noticing the warmth in someone's expression, or even a fleeting, unconscious memory of a comforting touch. Your hypothalamus doesn't wait around to ask for your permission. It just acts.
The exact moment that automatic sensor picks up on a cue, it floods your entire system with dopamine. And dopamine, as you probably know, is the ultimate reward chemical. It acts like an internal loudspeaker, blasting a very simple, direct order to your body. This feels good. Go get it. It creates an immediate, very real physical craving. So this isn't just a passing thought. It is a literal chemical command rushing through your bloodstream, urging you to pursue whatever just triggered that reward system.
Now, what's really fascinating here is just how powerful your imagination actually is. You might think an urge requires actual physical stimulation, right? But simply imagining a touch activates nearly 80% of the exact same brain areas as experiencing real physical contact. Let that sink in for a second. Your brain barely knows the difference between a vivid thought and reality, and that is precisely why an urge can feel overwhelmingly physical and urgent, even when absolutely nothing is happening in the room around you.
Because these urges feel so intense, our gut instinct is to fight them. We tell ourselves to just stop thinking about it. We try to use brute force willpower. But trying to forcibly shut down these thoughts basically always fails. And honestly, the thoughts usually just get louder. Why? Well, because these are not moral failings. You aren't weak. These are ancient biological survival signals designed over millions of years to ensure the human species continues. You simply cannot willpower your way out of a biological imperative.
But here's the catch. What if I told you that not every sexual urge is truly about sex? This is where the biology gets absolutely mind-blowing. When you understand what's actually going on beneath the surface of these random urges, you start to see a completely different picture of what your body is actually crying out for.
Psychologists call this phenomenon the misattribution of arousal. It's a psychological twist where your brain literally crosses its wires. You see, the neural pathways for physical sensations and emotional sensations often overlap. And because of this shared wiring, your brain can easily mistake an intense emotional need for a physical, sexual one. You think you're feeling physical desire, but your body is actually desperately trying to signal something entirely different.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core conflict happening inside your head. On one side, you have a genuine, biological desire for physical intimacy. But on the other side, you have the brain's disguised cravings for emotional comfort, safety, and regulation. Your brain is a highly efficient machine. If it knows a certain physical thought brings a rush of feel-good chemicals, it will trigger that thought just to temporarily patch up a totally unrelated emotional wound. Let's look at the real culprits behind these sudden urges. The biggest triggers aren't usually physical at all. They're heavy stress, deep isolation or loneliness, and profound boredom. When you're feeling weighed down by life, your reward system is starved. It absolutely hates sitting in discomfort, so it actively hunts for a quick, guaranteed shortcut to feeling good again.
So that sudden, highly distracting sexual thought or fantasy, It is very often just your brain serving itself a quick dopamine snack. When your workload is overwhelming or you're feeling disconnected from the world, a surge of arousal is the brain's easiest, fastest way to self-medicate. It's a jolt of energy and pleasure meant to distract you from the heavy, uncomfortable reality of your current stress or boredom.
This crossed wiring is heavily influenced by oxytocin, which is known as the bonding hormone. Your brain releases oxytocin during physical intimacy, sure, but it also releases it during moments of emotional safety. Have you ever felt suddenly turned on during a deeply kind conversation, or really warm hug, or even while watching a comforting movie scene? That isn't necessarily a craving for intimacy. That's an oxytocin release signaling a deep human craving for connection, reassurance, and closeness.
So if willpower doesn't work, and our brains are constantly crossing these wires, are we just at the total mercy of our biology? Absolutely not. You have a built-in override system called the prefrontal cortex. This is the logic and reasoning center of your brain. By utilizing this part of your mind, you can actually step out of that automatic, primitive response and start regulating this biological energy with calm, clear intention.
Here is exactly how you use that prefrontal cortex to take back control. First, pause. When the urge hits, don't panic. Second, ask yourself what you actually need right now. Are you tired, stressed, lonely? Third, treat the urge like a ringing phone. You can't stop the phone from ringing, but you definitely don't have to answer it. You can acknowledge the sound and just let it go to voicemail. Honestly, this is where investing in a premium habit tracker or a guided journaling app right on your phone can be highly valuable. It gives you an immediate, structured place to log that pause and decode the real trigger before you act on it.
Instead of letting the urge hijack your focus, you want to use tools that process the feelings safely. Mindfulness grounds you in the present moment. Journaling, whether in a physical book or an app, forces your prefrontal cortex to translate a raw, messy feeling into logical language, which instantly diffuses its power. And deep breathing physically slows down your heart rate, signaling to your hypothalamus that you are safe and you really don't need a frantic dopamine spike right now.
So, the crucial point is this. You don't have to fight your urges. You just have to understand them. When you greet an intrusive thought with calm awareness instead of intense shame, you strip away its power. You realize that your brain is just trying to send you a message. Awareness isn't about suppressing your desires, it's about listening to them closely enough to hear what they're actually asking for.
Let's move to this beautifully empowering thought. You are not your urges, you're the one observing them. These automatic signals from your biology have been evolving for millions of years. They do not define who you are, they don't define your character, and they certainly don't define your worth. You are the conscious architect sitting in the prefrontal cortex, watching the machinery run and deciding how to respond. Understanding this completely shifts how you view yourself, but learning is a shared experience. So I want to pass the question over to you. How do your moods affect your urges? Have you ever noticed your physical cravings spiking right when your stress levels peak? Drop a comment below and share your experience. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to read today to finally feel understood and let go of their own shame. Keep observing, keep learning, and as always, thank you so much for exploring this with me. Take care of yourself.